For this video I'm going to talk about my selections for the 2021 Grand National, and I will give you my top 5 selections. I haven't decided which one I'm going to bet personally tomorrow, but I suspect I will have a strong idea tomorrow morning when I post my ITV selections. So I've got a couple of outsiders that I think possibly have, pretensions of being in the places at the very least, and with lots of places available with certain bookmakers, definitely worth having a look at. And the first selection is Sub Lieutenant, who was a 12-year-old and has been obviously round the block with various trainers in a time, but has ended up in the stable of Georgie Howell. Now, obviously at 12 the horse isn't going to get any better, but has some seriously good back form, and off a mark of 146, 10 stone 3, as we can see, when owned by Gigginstown, was running really well in races, and indeed in 2019 was second, off a mark of 155. So off a mark of 156, the chance is there, and you could quite easily run into a place. If we see, you can get 7 places with certain bookmakers. So Sub Lieutenant is definitely one for me that might represent a bit of value of high hundreds. Now, my second outsider is Talk is Cheap. Now, it's rather an up and down profile, but if we go back to 2019, there's a bit of form there at Sandown, over 3 mile 5 furlong, that looked pretty good. I mean, it was on good ground, off a mark of 145. It's got a mark of 150, so there's nothing. Not to say he's not well handicapped. Obviously, the form has definitely taken a downturn in between, but there was definitely some sort of spark there, and 2 runs on one run on the flat and another on a flat national hunt flat race at Lingfield. He didn't really cut much ice at Kempton, but I just have this sneaky suspicion that this bit of form here could entitle him to run a good race if all's fitting well again. So my second selection, Talk is Cheap, at 66 to 1. Now, my next 3 selections are all at the front of the market. My third selection is Any Second Now, who came back to form last time out at Navan. Now, Ted Walsh has a previous winner in the 2000 National in Papillon, and this just looks the sort that could make a big step up on form for me at this sort of distance. If we go back into previous form, he won the 3 mile 2 at Cheltenham in 2019, and was probably a bit unlucky to be fell at Fairyhouse next start in the 3 mile 5 there. So there's definite stamina in that form, and it hasn't really been tested much since those runs. Obviously 3 mile, there was nice staying on there. Obviously needed the run there, and this was probably just a nice prep to get the horse fit and well. So I think Any Second Now has pretty good claims, I think, for this race. Now, my fourth selection is Minella Times. This horse for me is possibly the form horse of the race. The last 2 runs have been pretty good, nicely staying on. the mark of 146 is a bit, a bit higher than ideal maybe from what the form is shown, but I get the impression that this sort of test could really suit, and for me, the chance is an obvious one. Maybe not quite as good as any second now, but as the stamina is still to be proved, but it must have a decent chance. And my fifth and final selection is Borough Saint. Now, again, this is obviously been a target, and it's been brought along very nicely for this sort of race. The mark of 156, pretty good. I mean, when you look back, it was finishing third in Group 1 off that mark, and has some Grade 1 form over in France too. I think the only possible downside could be if the ground was turned a bit soft or heavy, but I don't think that's going to happen. If we look at when he won the Irish Grand National in 2019, I mean, this was good ground, and I think this sort of test is really ideal on decent ground, and I can see this one running a big race too. There's a bit of back class in there as well. Group 1s on there over hurdles back in the day, and it's obviously been lined up for a good crack at this race. So they are my 5 selections for the Grand National of 2021. Now, I shall obviously look at this race and make my final selection for my ITV service later on, and hopefully, out of those 5 selections, a couple could run really well, or place at decent prices and win the big race itself. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.